Welcome to Beautifully Ruined, the podcast where we believe that being beautifully ruined isn't the end, but the beginning of a remarkable journey. I'm your host, A.D. Callaghan, and guys, we have made it to episode number 11. I'm so excited to be here with you guys to share this message, and let me just put it on out there. Am I the only one who feels like society, social media, maybe even some people in your life at work, at school, at church, at home, tend to shame you or guilt trip you into either doing something that they want you to do, right? Or shame you or guilt trip you for how you show up, what it is that you do, when you decided to do it, how you decided to do it, and whatever it is that you're thinking about doing in the future. Like, I don't understand why people feel like they have to shame or guilt trip people when 9 times out of 10, you are already walking around with shame and guilt and humiliation from things that you probably did yesterday, that you done 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, 2 decades ago, since you were a kid. Literally, you're showing up to work, you're showing up to school, you're showing up to church, the best that you can with that heavy backpack of humility, of humiliation, of guilt, of shame, of all the things that you thought that you did wrong, of all the things that you thought that were your fault, that it was no way to fix them. Like, you already walking around with this 10-ton backpack, and now they feel that it's in their right because they want you to do whatever it is that they want you to do, or they think that you shouldn't do whatever you did or how you did it or how you show up or what you decided to buy. They don't think you should do that, so they want to add on to the weight that you're already carrying. Like, make it make sense. It almost sounds diabolical to me, right? And what's so interesting about it is that those very same people, I kid you not, if I were to go back and ask any of the people who've done what I'm talking about to me, they will always say, oh, well, I was doing it in your best interest. I just wanted you to be better. I wanted you to level up. Okay, I can understand that. Maybe you did, right? Maybe they did. Maybe that was their perspective, to be fair, because it is all about perspective, right? And we can alchemize some horrid situations, some bad feelings, and usually turn them into good, right? We're capable of doing that. I know I've done that a lot. Like, I've taken pain and turn it into glory. I've taken, a bad situation and turn it into a good situation with the help of God, right? But this led me to literally look up the definition of shame, y'all. And the noun tense of shame means a painful feeling of distress, humiliation caused by the consciousness of wrongdoing, right? And to me, the noun tense of it, right, it makes me think about what we already doing to ourselves. All the humility, all the shame, all the guilt that we're already putting on ourselves. We're beating up ourselves for what we did wrong, what we could have did right, what we should have did, what we could have did, what we thought we should have done. All these what ifs, right? And the verb tense actually means someone to cause someone to feel inadequate, less than, ashamed, or humiliated. And to me, that was symbolic of, the guilt and shame that people add on to us to either get us to move to do something that they want us to do, or for us, they do for us doing whatever it is that they feel that they don't agree with for whatever reasons, right? And I just cannot comprehend why that they would feel that this would be the most productive method in order to push us, right? And this literally just led me to a personal experience of mine. I shared in a previous episode when I decided to go back to college, right? And when I had, when I dropped out and basically when I dropped out, I didn't drop out because I just dropped out. No, I got sick. I couldn't go back to school. My school told me that I had to pay like $3,000, $4,000. No one had this money to help me get back to school. No one was willing to help me get back to school. Nobody had an alternative solution for me. So I had to figure out life. And when that happened, I had put shame and guilt and I was humiliated, like all these things on myself, because I knew that I fumbled a full scholarship. I knew that I had the capability of being an engineer, a scientist, a teacher, a professor, whatever it is that I wanted to be. I knew that I could have accomplished it if I would have made the right choices, right? And if I would have had the right support system. I knew it. And it was at that moment that I realized that, like, I messed up. Like, I literally messed up. So there wouldn't have been any amount of shame that anybody could put on me that I hadn't already put on myself. Do you hear me? And now this is the kicker, you guys. So many years later of me figuring it out, me working at Taco Bell, me working at Best Buy, me doing plumbing, me working at collection agencies, right? And you have all these people, they're saying, oh, well, you working at a collection agency? Oh, I would have never thought that. I just knew you would be better. I just knew you would be a scientist. I just knew you would have did this. When are you gonna go back to school? All these people making me feel shame and making me feel inadequate, making me, guilt tripping me for A, not only fumbling the ball, but B, me trying to survive. And little did they know that collection agency that they were talking about, me working at the plumbing company that they were talking about, I was making more money than people who actually had degrees. I probably was making more money than the people who was actually shaming me. Little did they know, but I had already had put so much shame, so much guilt onto myself that it really compounded with them adding on to it. And that leads me to another thing. Everybody wonders why so-and-so drinks like they do. Everybody wonders why so-and-so smokes like they do, why they party like they do, why they go have sex like they do, why they live a risky lifestyle. Because I guarantee you, somewhere in their life, something happened. They went through some situation where they put shame and guilt on themselves. They carried it around in their backpack. They're walking around with a 10-ton backpack in order to deal with that pain and deal with all of that loss and deal with all of that suffering and still show up to work, still show up for the kids, still show up to church, still show up on social media, still just show up, period, in life. They have to seek some type of comfort. And if you supposed to be their support system, you supposed to be their family, you supposed to be their coworker, you supposed to be their classmate, someone who's there to help them, but instead of helping them, you're shaming them, you're belittling them, you're guilt tripping them, you're actually probably forcing their hand, making them seek whatever they're seeking out to ease the blow, to deal with life, to show up, right? And so that's probably 9 times out of 10 why they're doing whatever they're doing, whether it's overeating, over shopping, whatever vice that they choose to deal with the pain, the guilt, and the inadequacy that they're feeling deep inside, right? And so what's interesting to me is that when it wasn't until I actually worked at this collection agency, y'all, and I worked at this collection agency where there were other people who had taken a different path, right? Life had taken them a different path for whatever reasons, right? And there were people there who were aspiring to be rappers. There were people who were aspiring to be makeup artists. There were people who aspiring to be business owners. There were people who were aspiring to write books, to be motivational speakers, to do a number of things, right? And these people were actually taking these steps to actually accomplish these goals. Go back to school, whatever it is. It wasn't until I got in an environment, y'all, where I was literally surrounded by people who were not shaming me, who were not guilt tripping me for what decisions I made, for where I was at in life. But if anything, they were encouraging me. They were showing me what to do, how to do. They were giving me constructive criticism, right? On how to become better, how to level up. And at that time, that's literally when I first discovered, I'm like, hey, you know what? I think I should do this public speaking thing. Everybody's been telling me, like, you'll be a great motivational speaker. You're inspirational. I've been doing this on a one-on-one basis with everyone that I knew my entire life. But in my spirit, I start taking public speaking courses. I open all the social medias. I begin writing a book. I began taking all these steps to start doing it. And then something in my spirit was like, it is not time. You have a lot of work to do. You know what it is you gotta do. You need to get your health right. You need to get your mind right. You need to go back to school. You need to immerse yourself in the college experience. You need to figure out what your career goals is. You need to accomplish all of this before you decide to take this step. So me thinking like, oh my God, that's a lot of steps. College, that's years. Figuring out career, that's years. Like all these steps would take years. But it wasn't until, you guys, that I had enough of where I was at, my current situation. I said, you know what? I'm going to take these steps. Everybody around me, this support system, they are showing me how they're doing it, and I'm not going to be left in the dust. I am going to seize the opportunity, and I'm going to do what I have to do. And I kid you not, you guys, when I decided to go back to college, I said, I'm going to go back to college. God made a way. I didn't even have to pay off that $3,000, $4,000. I kid you not. They literally like wrote it off, released my transcript. I signed up for college. I went to college. And the funny thing is, when I went back to tell a lot of the people that, were the people who were saying, trying to belittle me, a lot of people who were giving me that hard love or whatever you want to call it, they was like, oh, okay, you're going back to college. It was one ear out the other. But when I wasn't even going to college, when I didn't even know how I was going to be able to get back in college, it was conversation after conversation. Went on from 5 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours if I would have allowed it. On and on and on, with shame and guilt and making me feel bad for what I lost, where my current situation is. But the moment I shared with them that, hey, I'm going back to school, it was just a brief, oh, okay, and all about their business. And then even what made it even more interesting is that once I got back in school, do you think any of them were there to support me? No. Do you think any of them helped with a student loan or asked how I was doing? No. Do you think that they're going to be there when you need somebody to watch your kids when you got to go to night school? No. Or you think they're going to tell you how to balance, work and school life and a regular life? No. Matter of fact, many of them weren't there at all for any of the process at all. Literally, no support, no help, nothing. Matter of fact, a lot of them were hard to find. Like, they didn't communicate at all. And it was fine because, to be honest with you, I was too busy accomplishing my goals and trying to figure out situations on a daily basis that I didn't have time to go back and talk to so-and-so about what they feel, how I was doing it. I was too busy, staying focused on my goals and what I needed to do every given day that I didn't have time to look back. I didn't have time to care about what anybody felt about how I was doing it, my approach or anything. And that leads me to nothing. When I literally immersed myself in the college experience, y'all, I decided to, I'm gonna, pledge for that fraternity. I always kind of wanted to have more of a college experience. I always wanted to be a part of brotherhood. I'm gonna do it, right? And I was nervous. I was scared, y'all. And then when I actually crossed and I got to the finish line, right? And I invited everybody I knew. Like people who knew me before I was a child, my family members, people who knew me before all of this, not people I met along the way. And I say, hey, come out. I want you to come see. Like, I couldn't believe I did it, right? Me of all people, especially people who knew me. Do you know that, like, out of like my original people, like family members, people who knew me before the collections, all this, like I would say maybe not even 3 or 4 showed up. And the majority of people, of like the 30 or 40 people that actually came, were people that I had met along the way, and that I met while working in collections, that I met at these other jobs, that I had met while at the university, right? They came to support me. So that leads me to this, you guys, is that you're going to get people, right? You're going to get people who's going to, they're going to project their own insecurities on you. They're going to attempt to shame you, guilt trip you into doing whatever, or for whatever it is that you choose to do. I don't care if you decided you're gonna, after all your hard work, you're gonna get a Fendi bag. Now somebody gonna have something to say about that Fendi bag. You're gonna have those type of people, right? So you're gonna have any of those type of people. But the thing of it is, I want you to stay focused on your why. Understand that they may not know, where you came from, why you're doing what you're doing, and you deserve it. And then secondly, I want you to understand that it's time that you release all that shame, all that guilt that you put onto yourself. You release it. You can no longer afford to walk around with a 10-ton bag of guilt and shame for things of your past, for a time that no longer exists, for an older version of you that no longer exists. This new you is not making the same choices. This new you is not making the same mistakes. This new you is a new day. And that's what we're going to live in. We're going to live in the present, and we're not going to be about the past. So we're going to let go all the humility, all the shame, all the guilt, all that baggage of the past. We're going to leave it in the past. We're going to throw it in the dumpster. We're going to light the dumpster up. We're going to throw it in the water. We're going to leave it at the altar, whatever. We're going to leave it, right? And we're going to lighten our load. And next thing, we're going to surround ourselves with people who our pace or rhythm or whatever we're deciding to do doesn't trigger them. That whatever we're trying to do, they're actually supportive. Maybe because they're doing it themselves, or maybe they want to do it. We're going to surround ourselves with people that feed us instead of nip at our neck and make us feel less than, right? You want people who's going to add to you and not take away from you, right? And then next step, I want you to remember who you are. Let us not forget who you are. Like, we have overcome things that many other people haven't overcame. We have gotten this far, and we are not stopping now. We are God's children. We are the chosen ones. We are the perseverers. We are the overcomers. And there isn't any obstacle that can come that we will not be able to meet head on and handle it the best way possible. And even if we can't handle it, trust me, God, the universe, or whoever will send the right people to show us the steps, to show us the things, and guide us to handle whatever situation, whatever problem that we may encounter on our journey to accomplishing our goals. And lastly but least, right? We're just gonna learn to celebrate all the milestones, celebrate all the wins, celebrate ourselves, celebrate who we are becoming, and give ourselves patience and grace, and get to know who we are becoming and become comfortable with who we are and who we're becoming. And trust me, you will have it. It doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter what they're trying to put off on you, because we're not carrying that load anymore. We're not carrying our own guilt, own doubt. We're not carrying it. We're letting it go. And if this resonates with you, please drop a comment. Let me know what you're leaving in the past, what you're overcoming, and let me know what you're striving for. Until next time, thank you.